Warning. You are about to enter the Black Garden. Abandon all ye false hope and embrace the darkness. A cosmic shift emulates the Black Garden. A cataclysm of emotion. Joy, strife, lust, heartbreak, resilience, grace, conviction, commitment, love, forgiveness, temperance, encouragement, motivation. A vortex coming. Journey inside the darkest parts of your mind to illuminate the true light that shines. Join us September 2024.
There once was a place enchanting your darkest desires. There once was a road that crossed all your tranquility. A fight for true love, a fall for timeless lust, secrets of the labyrinth, destroyed bonds at the glance in a mirror. Hearts closed, thorns in prison, a spirit hardened. Rise up, warrior, confess your truth. Join us inside Black Garden. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Decree of Dominion podcast with your host, Darklaw. Very excited this afternoon to bring you episode 1 of the brand new Black Garden series. And so Black Garden series, again, is going to focus on dating and relationship and how you can find the love of your life. And if you already have the love of your life, help you maintain the love of your life. And so I'll introduce my guest here out of Dallas, Texas. We have Mrs. Keisha Williams. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So, as you mentioned, my name is Keisha Williams. Just a little bit about me. I am a licensed therapist and a relationships coach. So, I specialize in couples counseling, working with kingdom couples is kind of my judge. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Let's definitely appreciate you having me on episode 1 of Black Garden. I know all the viewers out there are excited. And so before we get started, I always preface every episode with this. No difference with the Black Garden. I hope the viewers out there, something that is said today resonates with you. Everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different story. But I just want to let all the viewers know that your story matters. And I also want to say, take your own life, look in the mirror, if you will, and take some positivity from today's episode and apply it to your daily life so that you can decree the dominion of your own mind. And so with that being said, Keisha, again, excited to have you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got into the coaching and relationship counseling space?
Yeah, for sure. So, I went to school for social work. So my degree's background is social work, and I kind of followed that traditional path of getting licensed. And I actually started my career working with kiddos. Over time, I graduated into like working with families. And through that space, I really learned that, man, I like working with the parents directly and like helping their marriage. So around like 9 years ago, I started leaning into that space more and really focusing on couples. And God kind of just like, honestly, before I was even like technically trained in the couple space, I was just kind of naturally gifted, if you will, with just some things and how I work with them. So then I started getting trained in specific techniques like the Gottman method for couples counseling and things of that nature. Um, and over time, I opened my own practice. So now I've been in private practice for my working for myself for the last like 2.5, maybe 3 years in October. And in the last few months, I actually kind of reached into the coaching space to really honestly access more couples so that I wasn't limited with my license with the states that I, see clients in. So yeah, that's kind of how I made that jump into the coaching space.
Awesome. Bless your heart. I definitely commend you for your courage with, helping couples and, now getting into the coaching space. And again, for those of you that are viewing, you know, it does take a lot of hard work and it takes a person with a given heart.
Mm,
You have to have a heart and courage for people to really, have that heart to want to help people and, coach and guide them to, better themselves. And so with that being said, I kind of want to get into uh, what are some of the stereotypes, if you will, when it comes to dating in today's society.
ooh, stereotypes. I don't know if it's so much stereotypes, but I'll tell you the things that I've kind of heard clients say. Because even though I specialize with couples, I get singles who work with me about which trip they choose. And a lot of things that I hear is that the well is kind of dried up. There's not a lot of hope. There's not a lot of prospects regarding like marital courting. A lot of people feel like it's just kind of a gaming scene, and it's really a select few who want a committed relationship. I think one of the things that's kind of popped out in the last few years was kind of polygamous relationships. And like I saw a lot of couples who were like, well, maybe we should just do like open relationships. So maybe that's that type of stereotype of like you can't be content with one person, but kind of have a variety of prospects, if you will, to kind of pull from. So I think those are like two major things of like people not really being in that committed space and then being with more than one person, or two of the kind of issues that I've heard, my singles running to try to date in today's society.
It's funny you say that because, like I said, when you said that, I actually put my head down. I was like, "You got me," because I was I'm one of those. I'm
Stop
one of those.
it! Not in your business. Stop it.
Right, right. Okay, I'm one of those people that said the well done went dry. um, and so, yeah. So, in your opinion, why do you think that sudden shift of a lot of single men and women are kind of like, yeah, the well's just dry, or there's not. For me personally, it just seems just recently, it's just not anybody that has the qualities that I'm looking for. What have you seen in your professional space that you think has led, especially the youth, or even early 20s, late 30s? What have you seen that correlates directly to that kind of like, I wouldn't say hopeless, but kind of that like negative
Sure.
stigma of I can't find anybody right now.
Honestly, I think like before we even get into like the specific partners, right? I honestly think some of that hopelessness and doubt is really rooted in how poor marriages are doing. It's been like a steady statistics for a while that 50% of marriages end in divorce. And unfortunately, that's something that we see not just in like popular culture, but even in like the church community. We're seeing marriages fail at that rate. So I think people, you have to think about like even the kids that are growing up in these households are seeing their parents separate, at a higher rate than back in the day. So I think that kind of puts you in a mindset of like, what's the point? Like, what's the value of marriage? And then I've heard a lot in the last like decade. I've heard a lot of chatter around what people consider marriage to be. Like, marriage is just a piece of paper. It doesn't really mean anything. Like why would I allow, a state or some legal system tell me what my relationship with a person is? So I think kind of that's the overarching problem, right? And then when it trickles down, it just changes a person's motives, right? If I'm no longer aspiring towards marriage, right, then I'm kind of just looking to enjoy life with somebody. So now, instead of having this like committed, desire to be and do life with somebody, I'm looking to just like have fun, right? And I think there's a lot of mismatch because some people are still longing for that commitment, while the others on the wheel, the other fish in the sea, if you will, they're more so like rejecting it. Like, I don't really want to give you that part of me. I just want to enjoy life to the fullest. Right. So then I think that's where you stress in some of those different qualities of like, hey, well, I value these things that are more about my expression of freedom versus me moving towards a committed lifestyle and having to give up parts of myself for someone else. So I think that's a lot of like what is kind of showing up and why people are like not seeing matches like that. Well, why you just can't do this? Because people are like, no, I'm just prepared by myself because that's what else I told. I'm just trying to be happy for me. So I think that's probably a lot of what's going on.
I'm glad you said that because I think, in your opinion, do you think it's more of, for me personally, I had to do a lot of like personal healing with my past trauma. Again, for those of you that tune in and depend on me, you can check out the childhood trauma series and some of my other episodes. But for me, I think, and tell me what you think, but I think it's more of the fear of what happened in the past, and also you're taught what you're taught, right? So if you haven't seen, if your parents didn't have a stable relationship, or if you're not seeing, if you haven't had marriage and seen it, you don't know what it's look like. It's kind of the same with like financial gain, right? If you didn't grow up with money and you get money, and you all of a sudden get money in your adulthood, you have to actually work at gaining that financial literacy. So, what's your opinion on that? Like you said, that negative stigma of, oh, I don't want to get married. Married is just a piece of paper. It's all me for me. How do you, what are some goals and tips that you think that can like debunk that for the youth?
Yeah. So this is why I really like specializing with kingdom couples. And I'm going to say a couple of things. One, my intention when I work with couples is really not just solely the couple themselves, right? It's also for exactly what you're saying, like what their children are seeing, because there's a generational impact that can be had just by nurturing a marriage well. And that's why I'm personally so motivated to serve kingdom couples in this way. So part of what debunks the current kind of thoughts and discouragement out there is understanding what marriage really is, right? Like marriage is God's idea, not man's. And when you understand like there's a purpose behind that thing, you show up different. Also, I think a lot of it is just getting connected to roots. People out here really stuck in like surface level thinking and living in a surface level way when it comes to relationships. And what I mean specifically by that is like people don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to give you the depths of myself, right? If I'm focused on like having fun with you and things in this nature, I don't really want to go deep. And a lot of it, exactly to your point, is based on I'm hurt. I have my own like scars and wounds from my childhood experience, from what I saw with my parents' relationship, and maybe even aunties and uncles and grandparents, right? Like again, I think 50%. So if 50% of what I saw was negative, and also depending on how gravely negative those breakups or relationships were, because there's a lot of toxicity in those relationships that end, and some of them that even stay together. So when you think about all of that, again, it changes the motives of the heart. It changes the desires. So when people can really tune back into, well, as a man and a woman, what is marriage? What is the purpose of marriage? What did God intend for it? And when we join our lives together, what's the purpose of that? It will debunk like that worldliness that makes people lose hope. Like you're no longer thinking about how can you make me happy, and then if we hit a season of we're not happy, we need to separate. No, the joy of the Lord is your strength, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta be connected to kingdom purpose, and I think that's the best way to debunk, this kind of worldly mindset about marriage and relationship.
It's interesting you say that because um, basically what you're saying is a lot of us, especially in the youth, we have a false definition of marriage. And I think that goes right to your point. We think it's just, oh, she's cute, I'm cute, she's cool, we both have money, let's, unionize, and, every day she's going to make me happy, every day I'm going to make her happy, and we're all just going to, walk the rainbow bridge and, live happily ever after. But like to your point, marriage is a God-given mandate it's a declaration, a union of two to serve his purpose. And so with that being said, with marriage, it's more of, like you said, hey, how can we serve God together? And what qualities are we bringing to the table to focus on the assignment? And I think
Yeah.
if you're viewing what she's saying is don't focus on the worldly things, and which is, human based, we're all based off emotion, right? So,
Yeah.
every day is not going to be a good day. And what she's saying, if you're viewing out there, is, it's not meant for marriages. Marriage is not meant for everybody to have a great day every single day. It's not meant for your human enjoyment. And I think that's what people, they're like, oh, well, let's get married and it's just going to be like we're dating. And I want to touch on that a little bit. That's a really good topic to get into. What do you think, especially being happily married with a daughter and another daughter on the way, in your opinion, what separates dating from marriage?
Ooh, ooh, that's a spicy one. Honestly, it's the commitment, right? Like, it's going back to what is marriage truly? It's a covenant of a joining a life. And I specifically think when the Bible repeats this in the Old Testament and the New Testament, it talks about two shall become one. There is oneness in marriage. When people are dating, their goal isn't necessarily, some people might try to do this, but there's not that covering, that covenant of the relationship, which is what marriage brings under God, right? But there, that one is the primary difference between a dating relationship and a marriage relationship. Now we're one, we are blending our lives, and the Bible says you shall forsake all others, right? Like, for this reason a man shall leave his mom, his dad, to join with his wife, right? So that is the big difference. I'm not gonna say no one, but few people believe that if I'm dating someone, you should become a priority over my parents. Right. But in a marriage relationship, yes, baby, I do become the priority because now it's our household, our family, and they are secondary. Right. So that's kind of like that whole dynamic shifts when you become one with someone.
I definitely agree with that. And I just think that, in today's society, we're trying to make up our own rules, if you will, and go
Mm,
outside of the word or outside of the divine purpose of marriage. We're trying to, just what I've seen in the youth and just in dating in general, we're taking the bits and pieces of all three phases, which is single and just kind of mingling around, having fun, dating in a serious relationship and marriage. We're taking the good parts of all three and trying to mesh them together, kind of like Neapolitan ice cream, right?
yes.
Taking a chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and just trying to swirl it together. You know, go to Dairy Queen, put some candy in there, throw some hot fudge on that bad boy, and be like, "Yep, we got ourselves a life." And so, I think you said a really good points there. Uh, with the dating and separation is what I want to ask the viewers is, are you willing to sacrifice others for the commitment and for the unification of under one? I think that's one thing you just said is a lot of us today's society are about self, and it's, hey, how can this woman or man please me? And or it's always, hey, what are you bring to the table? Are you gonna pay the bills, or are you gonna, let me drive the car? Are you gonna cook dinner when I get home and off of work? And so, definitely, I encourage the viewers to seek higher counsel. That's one thing. Like I said, Keisha, you're very well spoken, well educated, you know, coach and therapist. With that being said, on the coach and therapy, I encourage the viewers. You only know what you know, right? And
Yeah.
so you only know your own experiences. And so if your experiences aren't in the relationship field when it comes to positivity, I suggest everyone seek higher counsel and learn how to love yourself. Learn what makes you attractive to a potential marriage suitor. And that kind of leads right into a little bit. I know you do a lot of coaching and couples therapy. What are some positive traits that you think is like a non-negotiable when it comes to a couple dating, wanting to get married? And what are some negative traits that you think that, oh, if they do this, then it's probably not going to lead to a fruitful marriage?
And a couple of things. First, I want to kind of touch on something that you said earlier, like 2 questions ago. And you kind of referenced it again when you said you don't know what you know. When we talk about like what sets a person up well for a relationship, it's so important to understand and get healing, right? Because fact of the matter is, all of your childhood experience, and not just your childhood, but all of your life experience up until being that person is going to go into that relationship. Period. Like the bends that you have towards, interests or dislikes, or the reasons why you're motivated towards something is based on your life experience. So if there are wounds that you have that haven't been, treated, if you haven't done some work to heal those things, you better believe when you get into an intimate relationship and especially into a oneness with somebody, that's gonna show up. So the first thing I would say to everyone listening is get to healing. You know what I mean? Like identify those places, those sensitivities in your life that are just hard for you and pursue healing around that. Now when we talk about like what makes a person like a good couplehood and like ready for a marriage versus not, one kind of thing I would say to debunk just some ideas is that there is no rubbing match. Like some people are like, oh no, follow the zodiac signs. Some people are like, well, if you're a type A, you need a type A. Some folks are like, well, if I'm not, I need that on it. Actually, the fact of the matter is, love is a choice, first and foremost, right? And there's no perfect person, right? We're all imperfect and flawed. And when you are choosing a partner, basically, you're choosing the set of flaws you're willing to deal with for the rest of your life, right? And again, going back to getting your healing, if you know where your sensitivities are, then you can communicate those well with your partner and begin to compromise around, hey, these are my needs based on my life experiences. What are yours? And that's one trait that you want to see in a partner. You want somebody that is willing to compromise. Again, getting out of that selfish mentality. If you're really ready for a marriage to string away with someone, it can't be about you. So you want to be able to compromise with someone. And I'm going to kind of reference the 4 killers of any relationship. But before I get into that, I want to say this. It's definitely a no-go if there is any type of abuse in a relationship. If you are kind of in a dating scene with someone and there's signs of emotional abuse, obviously physical abuse, but any coercion, that's an unhealthy dynamic. If you are afraid to share your opinions, your thoughts, and things of that nature, that's an unhealthy dynamic. And actually, just for the record, therapist, we are not encouraged to treat couples that show signs of domestic violence, right? Like, there's no way on God's green earth that if I am assessing a couple for, to work with them, I'm not going to serve as someone who has traits of DV because I'm not going to keep a victim in a situation with an abuser. Rather, I'm going to assess the situation, meet with the victim, and give you resources to get out and get safe, period. So if there's signs of those type of unhealthy dynamics, that priority becomes safety, and that's just not the relationship for you. So I want to say that for the record. Going back to like those traits. So if their criticism that is like prevalent in a relationship, defensiveness, shutting down without talking and engaging, or like kind of that contemptuous mocking, the person thinks that they're better than their partner, those may show up at any given moment in general conflict. But if someone is kind of characteristically living those out, you probably not ready for this type of long lasting relationship, because the research shows us that those are the 4 killers of any relationship lasting long. So they may show up. So I'm not saying like, oh, there's been a time that you've been critical or your partner has been critical, the relationship's not going to last. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's characteristic. right? Of like, there's no changing. This is just how we talk to each other. This is just how we do relationship. No, you gotta learn how to apply the antidotes to those horsemen, to those killers, so that there's a healthier way of doing a relationship together. So I would say that's kind of the difference between, who's ready and who's not, right? Like people who are open to conversation, people who will dialogue about differences that they have, people who can come back. I'm not going to put myself above you. I'm not going to mock you and literally make you feel like you don't have a voice or create an environment of eggshell walking. I'm not going to maintain defensiveness in our relationship. Like those are the difference.
Amen, amen. You said a lot in that. Um, the one word I want to use to describe what you said is communication. And I think that lacks a lot in relationships. So if you're viewing out there, everything she said, hey, allowing your partner to communicate, sacrificing, being empathetic, allowing your significant other to have a voice. Everything's not an argument where you got to throw stuff, break glass, yell, scream, holler, curse, call each other out of your name, go below the belt. And that's a lot of, that's a lot. I just want to sit on that for a little bit. Basically, she's saying, hey, if you do any of these things, you're not ready for marriage. And I just see it a lot in today's relationships where we think that's okay to, belittle each other, or you might have your significant other might have a parent that passed away, or maybe they're struggling with their weight, maybe they're struggling with their appearance, maybe they got a scar on their face or something of that nature. And you utilize when you're angry or mad, or you want to get something from them, you use that against them to, like you said, coercion, to try to get what you want in a relationship. And it could be simple. I want to give a little quick examples of some that I've seen, both in my childhood, just with parents. So those of you that don't know, so my mother was almost 400 pounds when I was a kid. And I just remember my father, he was a fit, skinny, played basketball. He was a, cut up guy, went to the gym, and I remember talking to my mother about this about a couple months ago. Obviously, she's well off now. Again, we are both domestic violence survivors. Uh, so she was able to be happily remarried and been happy ever since. But my mom lost over 200 plus pounds throughout my teenage and early adulthood. And so what I can say is it's simple stuff that goes towards coercion, right? And that could just be, hey, are you gonna cook dinner tonight? The wife says, I'm not feeling like it, and then you're saying, well, you just want to eat up all the food, or just little stuff like that, or coercion, and it's also financially. I think financial abuse is very underlining on both sides, if you will. It could be as simple as, oh, you're not getting any tonight if you don't buy me that new purse, that new earrings, or the guy saying you gotta cook dinner, or I'm not gonna cut the grass, or I'm not gonna pay the light bill. It could just be simple things like that. And just as relationships and dating, and even as single men and women out there, I want to talk to you real quick. If you're just starting to date a woman, or you're on the first few dates, or you're exchanging through social media or through a phone conversation, if they, there's always those, I'm gonna put my head down, but some of the viewers gonna get me, but I can't stand that cash app culture. That cash app culture. Yeah, I was gonna bring it. For those of you that are listening to one of my earlier episodes on a different series, yep, it's back from Blackguard, the cash app culture. And that's one thing I want to speak on as well, Keisha. I see a lot of in the youth is both men and women trying to gain financial gain and perks just to associate, or just to give a false representation of interest in the other person. And I want your opinion on, how you feel about using different coercive techniques to kind of, simulate the interest in that person.
Yeah, I mean, that just breeds unhealthiness, right? Like anything that resembles, models, looks like, or actually is coercion, that's an unhealthy dynamic that you don't want to be associated with. Again, like if I am assessing a couple, like if I'm going to work with them, if there's that like like don't get me wrong, like I don't want people to think like, oh, if it's unhealthy, we can't get help. No, there's an unhealthiness that will lead to greater severity of someone's well-being, right? So either your mental health is being threatened or your physical wellness is being threatened. So I would say be careful of anything that looks like or resembles coercion, because that's not a healthy dynamic. And where's it really coming from? Why does someone feel a need to coerce? That's a sign of power and control, which is saying that, hey, that's actually part of the DV cycle, right? Power and control is literally one of the points in that DV cycle. So, yeah, I would encourage anybody that is on the receiving end of that to run for the hills, run for the hills, right? And if someone, if you've fallen into being the coercer, like if that's something that you're doing, reassess, like why? What's your motivation, right? Like, is it because you're repeating something that you saw, you just don't know better, and you think like, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like this is who I'm supposed to be. Like, I don't know. This is why we're in couples. Where do you get your identity from? Your identity is found in Christ. So don't be out here trying to cookie cutter image of somebody else, right? Or maybe you fell into it because you come from a background where you feel like I never had any power. So when I get in a relationship with someone else, I want to try to like dominate them because it makes me feel better. That kind of takes us back to like get healing first. What makes you susceptible to falling to being dominated and coerced? And on the other side, what makes you susceptible to be, a person that's pursuing coercion? So there's some healing that needs to happen underneath both of those, for sure.
Awesome, awesome. And so I always like calling out the cash out culture, right? Because they're always they're out there. They're definitely out there. And like I said, I encourage everyone, again, seek higher counsel and to also again, don't do that. That's the first I want to say. Just don't. You don't. People don't owe you money to go on a date with them or to even text or talk to them on social media. Like I said, just stop that negativity. It's cancerous. And so, um, with that being said, can you tell the audience what are some goals for helping a single person, find that significant other that can even lead to a relationship?
Goals for them to pursue? Like, say a little more about that.
Yes, like basically, like what are some like tips that you would give to help someone find that person?
Mm. Right. Always start with yourself, right? Some people pursue relationships because they're trying to fulfill something that they feel like they're lacking, right? So always start with yourself before you identify like whether or not you're ready for a relationship or like who is a good person or a good fit for you. Just make sure your heart is ready to give in that way, and not just that when I say give it that way, don't take like a desperate energy of like I just want a person to listen to me and she's just love, but I'm romantic at heart. I'm not talking about like that how lofty is. I'm more so talking about like make sure you're in a whole place that it's healthy for you to join your life with someone in that way. That's what I'm talking about. So again, I encourage people to always start with your identity. Be sound and secure in who you are, and your identity is not found in your strengths, your interests, of who your family has said you were, and what kind of accolades you have. No, that's all superficial. Your identity is found in Christ, and be anchored in that first, right? So, the old saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So know who you are so that when you get into a dynamic or a relationship with someone, you won't lose yourself. One of the things that I teach my couples is that it's actually healthy to have a me and a we dynamic in a relationship. Doing relationship well is not about like it's just all of you. Like yeah, we said like don't be selfish, don't fall into that, but you still need to nurture your individual identity in Christ, right? Like that is part of it too. So when we talk about tips of like, okay, how do we find a good partner? You want to have somebody that will communicate well with you, right? Somebody who's able to compromise, you know. And I want to say this too, because like I think there's a misconception about like people who need a break and like people who shut down, right? Like when you hear me say stonewalling, those are people who are like, no, I'm shutting you out and I won't talk to you. I won't engage you in conversation. I'm going to avoid this topic and we just not going to have a conversation about it. That is more so in the realm of stonewalling, and that's unhealthy. But people stonewall usually or shut down because they need to like reset emotionally. They're feeling overwhelmed and like, I can't handle this conversation in this moment. So know the difference between like someone shutting you out and someone saying, I just need a break to reset before we continue on. And be willing to honor somebody that's asking for a break in a conversation. Like, so I don't want you to think like, oh, if they won't sit in the conversation, that's unhealthy. That's not true. That's not true. It's okay to take a 20-minute break before you resume a dialogue. Okay. So that's fine. You just want someone who is willing. Okay. Another tip that I would say, look for a partner. Look for someone honestly who loves God. I would say that look for someone who loves God. And one of the things that the Bible talks about in the book of Ephesians is, and I'll talk more so about husband and wife, right? It says, husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church. So women, you want a man who knows how to love like God loves. Right. And that is, like we talked about earlier, a sacrificial love, right? An honoring love, right? And then it says, women, respect your husbands, right? And this is kind of that like, hey, I'm not saying that you get to do this like power control thing, but I will always respect your voice. I will always respect what you bring to the table. I will always respect your position, right? And the things of that nature. And I'm not going to belittle you and make you feel less than or, downgrade you like, oh, you a beta man and all of these things of that nature. Okay. So I would say those are the two traits. Like if you were a woman looking for a healthy relationship with a man, you want that partner, that man to be capable of loving you well like Christ. And if you're a man looking for a woman, you want a woman that can honor you and give you respect, right? Honor being the key word, right? Like that, those are actually part of the core needs of a man and a woman, biblically based. So have identity grounded in Christ. Look for somebody who is also modeling identity like, hey, yes, I'm living like Christ in this world. I love like live like and yeah, look like him when I show up in my character. So look for someone of character. Look for someone who will communicate well with you. And I would start there. I would start there. Like all of the other things, like, oh, do we like the same thing? All of those other things are kind of secondary. So I would say start with the core of that.
Awesome, awesome. And so you packed so many things in this episode. But what you said, and it's gonna hurt some, it's gonna help some, but I hope it helps everyone. What you said in the episode is first heal. Again, going back to my very second question, heal yourself, be grounded within yourself. Once you have yourself figured out, then you can go pursue someone once you're grounded in your own core morals and values. And I think that a lot of people, we compromise too much for the sake of having somebody or having that other woman or other man instead of being grounded in what we hold stand for. Everybody should have some kind of core standards or non-negotiable, right? Everybody should have, hey, I'll only go this far for somebody, until I'm married, right? And so I just think that, again, hope you guys take heed to what was spoken here today. Again, find somebody that's like God. Find somebody that is what you want in a husband or wife, right? You always want to aim for the stars. Not saying they have to be, they're not going to be perfect. You have to compromise, and you have to be willing to, again, like she said in the beginning of the episode, be willing to deal with that person's flaws for the rest of your life. And so I hope all the viewers out there have gained an extended knowledge on the true definition of marriage. And I hope that you guys, all the viewers, apply that knowledge to their daily lives. And so, Keisha, could you tell everyone where they could find your um, coaching practices if they were to want to be coached by you, and any social media or handles for how to find you?
Yeah, so my coaching practice is the Marriage Lifeline. You can either find me through my website, the Journey to Better Counseling Service, or journeytobetter.com, or you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, at Keisha Williams, Keisha Williams on Instagram, and Keisha Williams just on Facebook. And I can share with you some links to my call to schedule a call with me or a consultation with me. I can schedule that or share that with you for your show notes.
Awesome, awesome. And so it's been a pleasure having you on the Create Dominion podcast, Keisha.
Thank you.
Again, this has been episode 1 of the brand new Black Garden Dating and Relationship series with Keisha Williams out of Dallas, Texas. Hope all the viewers and disciples of Dark Law out there take heed to what's been spoken today. Go to create your own dominion and make sure you become the best version of yourself. Hope everybody has a great, wonderful rest of their evening. And until next time on Black Garden. Thanks, Keisha.
You're welcome.